Toby Ayeni joins us. She's MissTechy, and she's going to walk us through all of the things you just watched. Welcome to the program,
Thank
Toby.
you so much for having me. I'm delighted.
It's always exciting to see women do things that, we usually associate with men.
Well,
so tell me.
I would not really classify it as a gender thing. I mean,
Exactly.
I just grew into it. My parents introduced me to tech at an early stage, so it just became part of me. So I don't really see it as it's a lady thing or it's a guy thing. Yes, I feel it's open to everybody.
For sometimes people hear tech and like, no, I'm not ready for this. I had an exposure to computing and coding. I remember when we were coding, like, one of the things I hated the most, I love database management system coding. But one of the things I hated the most, the fact that I write lines of code, and maybe 3,000 lines, and one comma or something
would spoil everything.
And even when you run the error thing, and it doesn't give, it gives you like, it wants to give you a right answer, but eventually gives you a wrong result. So it's a complicated situation. So that's why people are just a bit reluctant to get into it. How did you break through all of that? And is it that complicated all the time? So
to be very honest, I think coding is just one part. There are so many tech disciplines that do not necessarily need coding. For example, UI UX, you design something, you think of something, it really tends towards the creative side, right? So a lot of people always have this misconception that, oh, tech, coding, I don't want, right? But there are so many aspects, beautiful aspects that has to do with coding. Like we were talking earlier, AI, for example. I feel like AI is going to take over. Like the way AI is going to change the world. I mean, we're already seeing a semblance of what it's going to look like in the future, right? So the point is, if for the Nigerians watching this or for the young ones watching this, I feel like they need to discover that part of tech that can fit into their passion, because tech can fit into any aspect. Tech is what we are currently using to, do this, right, on this show. So it's a lot of things. It's a lot. Gadget, consumer tech, AI, coding. There are so many aspects to tech.
I'd like to talk. I'd like to delve into AI, but let's see one of your videos yet again, and then we can continue that conversation on AI. We'll be right back.
Maybe an explainer.
maybe we'll return to that and get proper audio. But we've watched that, and it was quite interesting, because the hair went off. Yeah. We realized that that was not the real hair, and even the device MissTechy was holding was not a real device. True. And that shows you that people actually show you their high points on social media, and then they hide the other part. So she's going to walk us through that. Yeah. But how well are we managing the downsides of AI? I mean, Kayode here has had to do a disclaimer on a particular video that was put out using his voice. Ooh. And there's been, quite a number of that. You've had challenges of that with our anchors. Yes. But how well are we managing the downsides?
Honestly, not too well, if I were being honest. I mean, they are trying their best. Definitely. For example, Meta has started putting up a label that shows that a video or a picture is AI generated. TikTok is doing that as well. So, I mean, these are little things that, these companies, because everybody consumes content on social media. So that's the first go-to, right? So, I mean, all of these tech companies are saying, okay, since we know that there are going to be dangers, people can deep fake anybody these days, anybody can look like anybody, speak. I mean, I can make you speak in a certain way easily, right? Well, maybe not easily, but you get the point. So all of these things are now coming up, and one of the ways that the tech companies, social media companies have realized that they can combat it is to label all this content. While I feel like that is a good step in the right direction, I also feel like there needs to be more done in that aspect. Because what about content that is shared on WhatsApp, for example? Our parents can be very funny. 1 minute, they're already spreading the gist around and saying, it's Obasanjo that said it. Do you get? So I feel that there's a lot to be done. There's a lot to be done, because the negative side of tech can be really bad, right?
It's quite interesting. The video we showed earlier, we're just going to walk our viewers through what you did, trying to identify what is AI or not. And I'm sure you saw some of that. The part where what, did you remove your hair, or you unhaired yourself? You took off the glasses. Yeah. In fact, what you had with you, well, the phone. You were just trying to say what you see is not always what it is in reality. So you showed us how you tracked your face, how you put a face on your face, makeup on your face, exactly. You took that off. So it's quite brilliant what you're doing. If I took off your background. So it's amazing what you can do with tech if you want to use it for good. And otherwise.
Exactly.
But I want you to speak to how you were able to walk, and I think Jeff was talking about that really, how you're able to stare at tech and say, you know what, I'm going to try to conquer you, rather than the average response of, I'm not doing this, okay? And then you say, please help me do this instead. There's a lot of people who are tech averse. So I want to know, in your own journey, research and all of that, is it a cultural thing? One, is it the fact that we're not the ones who created this originally? So naturally, we don't own the tech. There's a danger to that as well. We don't own it, so we don't see it as ours. So it's just like, it's their thing. Western world have come to it. But we need to play in that space because it's a global village, and those are the indices for development. So first, what do you think is responsible? Because you said young people, but some old people say, don't leave us out.
So I feel, honestly, it's from the grassroots. I was talking to a friend of mine, and I said, when I have kids, they're going to get introduced to coding right from the get-go. Like,
what age, by the way? So parents can learn.
I mean, I don't know. Maybe when I get to that point, but as early as, say, 5, right?
5.
Honestly, because
MissTechy said so. 5.
Honestly, because when you check online on YouTube, you see like tutorials for kids on how they can, expose their minds to these things. I mean, if I were giving birth to in a developed country like, say, the US, I definitely would be doing way more than what I'm doing now. That's because they get introduced to these things at the early stage, right? But there's also the passion thing, right? That is also very important. So let's say, for example, day before yesterday, there's a particular software that looked difficult, very difficult. And I told myself I wasn't going to get into it, right? But then I needed it to do something important. So guess what? I went on YouTube, watched a couple of tutorials, and now I can do, So I think it's also a passion thing. The moment you condition your mind to realize that, you know what, I need to do this thing, you would learn, right? So I feel, and I might be insulting the average youth, they should not come for me, but I feel like the average Nigerian youth is comfortable, right? We just want, 9 to 5 is fine, I'm fine. We don't want to explore more, because tech is about exploring. As a matter of fact, if you go to school to learn tech, you're not serious. You need to be self-taught. I'm waking up, I'm burning the midnight candle to learn, to make sure that I'm better.
So does this mean anybody...
You're challenging me.
Anybody can... I'm asking that question on the context of just like music. When all of us came from radio. When I was on the radio, I know people who say they want to sing. God knows in my heart that if I want to say the truth, they don't have a future in music. You understand what I'm saying? So does it play out like that in tech, that anybody can just be, or there are certain people that just stay off?
So the beauty of tech is there are different categories. So if you like maths, right, coding can be your thing. If you are geared towards the creative side, you can design stuff. If you like there's for example, what I do, most people might look at it and say it's content creation, but it's a lot of work. It's tech, right? I'm using different tools, using different softwares every day to come up with, unique ideas or tell a story better. It's tech, right? So I feel like Nigerians need to remove the misconception we have that tech is just one way or just one way in. There's so many ways, right? Consumer tech, coding tech, UI, UX.
Do you mind? No, just pause. Yeah, I've started. So let's go. Consumer tech, what is it? Coding tech?
Okay, so for consumer tech, these are people that are in charge of phones, right? You know how even our kids these days know phone better than even my mom, right? And she's been using phone way longer than the last one in the house, right? Now, when you look at a small kid holding a phone and pressing and playing games, actually that's tech. Now, it's just how to apply it in a more serious way, how to gravitate that talent into doing something better. So imagine as the kid is playing game, you say, how do you know they programmed this game? And say, no, I want to learn. And that's how it starts, right? So it doesn't have to be so strict. I feel tech, and that's how I see tech. It's fun. It's not too serious. Yes, we can use it for serious stuff, but there's so many beautiful aspects to tech that's just, I'm just enjoying the process. I know.
And, you know, talking about all those opportunities, I'd like us to explore them and what we may be missing out. But we have yet another video of what you do. Let's try to enjoy that, and then we'll be right back.
Okay. Okay, guys, let's 3D print an apartment. So first, we need to 3D model the apartment. Obviously, not on paper. Instead, I used Bamboo Labs slicer software to cut holes into the walls. Now, when I was done, it was time to print. And guys, let me tell you, this process took more than 2 days. But after I was done printing, I did a bit of wiring here and there to light up some elements in the apartment, because we cannot have Mr. Eric living in the dark, right? Then I just assembled everything together, and guys, here is the final result. How did I do? Now for the big question, how can Eric fit into that? Well, that's the easiest part. It just needs to be wrapped and dropped like this, like easy peasy, guys. Anyways, how would you rate my 3D printed apartment over 10? And what should I print next?
Tomato.
Interesting, right? So are you taking away the jobs of the architects as well?
So funny thing is, this 3D printer is one aspect that a lot of Nigerians do not know about, which is crazy. So I was doing a bit of research, and I discovered that people over there make millions of money from 3D printing. It's a business. They call it printing farm, so they have a lot of 3D printers, like more than 20. And that's what they use. They just create like little models and sell it on Amazon, and they make a lot of money. The money's a lot, right? And it begs the question. So when I wanted to buy the 3D printer, I couldn't find anybody. Like, I only saw 2 vendors in the whole of Nigeria.
What?
Yeah. Wow. Shocking, and they obviously doubled the price. Now, the reason why I actually use the 3D printing is because that alone makes a lot of money. Why are Nigerians not looking into, okay, having one, using it to sell something, like even for toys, right? There are so many avenues, right? So this is one aspect that I feel like there's a lot of money, there's a lot of potentials to be made, or money to be made from this. But because of the fact that we just see tech as a one-way street, many people are not looking into that aspect. 3D printing is a huge business, right? And like you rightly said, there are other ways, right? I know people that are my friends that right from the comfort of their home, they didn't even need to leave anywhere. They're making like 6 figures working for global tech companies because they have skills. And that is the beauty of tech. You don't need to you don't need to have like a major experience to be able to make money. The moment you're able to do certain things and do it well, and obviously we have now social media, you promote your work over there, it's so easy. So remember the event we went for, I was sharing with the students there that I just feel like we need to move away from consuming content and creating stuff. Yeah.
Speaking of which, you know, besides the consumer tech that you've talked about, there are quite a number of other opportunities. There's fintech, there's digital payments, there's the potential for e-commerce. But what about the challenge of connectivity? You know, because some would say, the MissTechs of this world can only survive in places like Lagos and Abuja, where the issues of connectivity have been solved. But what about other parts of the country where we have huge potential in people like you, but because of the challenge of connectivity?
Honestly, I do agree that that is a major challenge. But if we do like a survey, the average people over there, that's the young ones, they find a way to buy, even if it's 5 gig data, right? It might finish within a week. It's 500 naira, but they buy data. Now imagine if rather than, because I noticed one thing with the consumer tech space, especially platforms, social media platforms, I noticed that they consume, the people that have like feature phones, these are phones that are not really expensive, they consume a lot of content on these social media platforms, right? Now imagine if that amount of time you spend consuming with your 5 gig can be used to watch a YouTube tutorial that would help you or will make you, you know, feel enlightened. So I feel it's just misplaced priorities sometimes, right? Would rather consume content, would rather laugh, enjoy skits and all of that than learn something. So once we change our perspective to, you know what, let me balance it. I'm not saying, okay, do not watch content, but let me balance it. Let me learn. With that 5 gig, I can spread it across. 2 gig for watching funny videos, 2 gig for learning.
I like how practical you are. Because In fact, some people don't think about their data and when it finishes, it finishes. But you actually have to allocate resources, and your data is actually a resource because you paid for it.
Yeah.
And I'm glad you said that we should move from consumption to production. That's why I chuckled when you said that. And it's not just for industries; it's also for tech. Content. We always say that we have brilliant ideas, but how well are we translating that into what it should be? So I want you rather to walk us through some of the, the interesting techs you have found lately that we can use to make life easier for ourselves. And I think AI ranks top.
Oh yes.
On that one, but I think it would also help us to see what we can do in-house, and I want to tie it to what we can do in-house as Nigerians. Fine, we might say that we didn't start this, but we can leapfrog. We've seen what India is doing. We've seen what China is doing in other countries. So what are the trends and how can Nigeria maybe catch up and leapfrog?
Honestly, you hit the nail on the head, AI. Now, yes, the thing about AI that I feel like Nigerians are not really jumping on, localizing AI. Right?
What does that mean?
So let's say, for example, you go to an AI website and you type in a prompt and it gives you an answer. It's English. Everything is just English. Now imagine if you create a base model of that, but you now translate it to Yoruba, translate it to Igbo, translate it to Hausa, different dialects, right? And even teach people how to speak. For example, I don't really know how to speak Yoruba. It's bad. I'm a Yoruba babe, but well. So imagine an AI that helps me know my local language, right? Now if someone were to think about that, create that, it would shock you to discover that a lot of people are like me. And a lot of people would use that product, download that product, and that's how it goes, right? So there's so many potentials. I feel like we could go on and on about AI because there are many aspects that we can actually localize AI to fit into our context as Nigerians, and we would shine, right? Because over there, they don't understand Yoruba English, but here you'll be king because you're going to appeal to a lot of people that understand and relate to what you're doing, right? So, yeah.
All right, so as we begin to wind down, my curious question has to do with why we have a lot of this technology, yet there's so much crime. Does it bother you as a techie?
Sure. Crime on cyberspace or crime physically?
Whether it's street crime.
Whether it's offline or online.
Honestly.
Maybe we should start with the cyberspace crime.
Cyberspace is a lot to deal with, but yeah, I don't know. I agree with you, but I mean, there are tech gadgets to help solve that. I mean, in developed countries, they have street cams, right, which has helped to even discover a lot of crimes, right? I mean, the tech has a way of helping solving things, right? But the main issue is actually the cyberspace, and that's one way, I feel, one area that Nigerians need to look into, because in the next coming years, we're going to have a high spike with cybersecurity. Like, people are going to be stealing data because that's going to be the main thing, right? So imagine you watching this if you jump into cybersecurity, and beauty is, it's so easy to learn. Everything is on YouTube. You go online, you learn, and then you take a certification, and that's how you become something, right? So that's one aspect, or that's one projection that a lot of people, researchers have said, that cybersecurity jobs are going to be on the high because of the rate of cyber crimes, right? So if you're watching this, that's one secret.
1 second, Jeff. Do you consider cyber crime, cyber fraud, do you consider them as techies as well? Are they tech bros and Texas?
Last, yeah. I'm sorry, but they are.
They are.
They are.
I mean, at this point, anyone that knows how to use the tech tools well is a tech bro.
But then cyber fraud is being used negatively.
That, unfortunately, that's the other side of it. But
we must emphasize that.
There's something playing in my head, but I don't want to say it. Toby Ayeni, founder of MissTechy, thank you so much. And also a content creator. Tech content creator. Yes. I like that part.
Texas as well. Do you like that?
Texas.
I mean, that's our...
Tech babe. She calls us a tech babe. Thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thank you for having me.
All right, that's it on today's episode of the program. Thank you so much for your time and company. I'm Jeff Ruzon.
And we're back where we started. Do what you can with what you have where you are. Start by reviewing the use of your data. Learn a skill, as MissTechy has advised. We'll be back again tomorrow. I am Bukola Koka.
Don't forget, everything you have is a resource. The time you have right now is a resource. So use it well so you can get the right returns. Well, Sunrise Daily is next, so use your time wisely and stay right here with Channels Television. I'm Kayode Goodbye.